support organizations that supports doctors like Dr. Rennie, with all of his practices, and I'll let you go over, everything that he's done with Aspen Dental since he joined. But yeah, as a support organization, we're just here to help doctors achieve their, their financial, professional goals. Anything that's not clinical, HR, staffing, supplies, anything you name it that we can support the doctors and take, stuff that they have to do off their plate. And we do that for them so they can focus on the patients. That's what we're here for. So that's who I work for. Roland is a talent acquisition manager, the lead manager for Florida. So I'll let him introduce himself and then we'll get to Dr. Rennie.
Hey there, thanks, Will. So again, my name is Roland. I am in charge of a team for the Southeast Division, basically Florida and Georgia, that interacts with all of you, soon to be dentists, currently practicing dentists, to really see if we can, really just make some connections and see if Aspen Dental might be something to explore for your career futures and such. But again, I'm here to support. Really, this is your opportunity to get your questions answered by a dentist, because as much as Will and I think we're great, nothing better than to hear more about Aspen Dental from a practicing dentist and an owner like Dr. Rennie. So again, I'm around for any questions or concerns, but Dr. Rennie, you're up next.
All right. Hey, guys. My name is Kevon Rennie. A Trinidad native. Went to dental school at University of Connecticut, graduated back in 2011, and joined Aspen maybe about a year after that. I did a residency first. So I've been with Aspen since 2013, just about. So far, it's been a great experience. I started as an associate, went to a clinical director, and I became an owner down in Florida in 2015. Since then, I've moved from one and currently own 6 offices. So it's my passion. I love developing teams. I love developing doctors and seeing them go from, just holding a handpiece to like doing some crazy procedures that, they love making patients happy with. So any questions, anything that I can do to help, I'm yours.
Thank you, Doc. And the first question came in, and it's always a good one. You graduated in 2011. Why did you choose Aspen Dental for your first? Was this your first position? I guess we'll go start there, and then why did you choose Aspen Dental?
Well, I applied at a couple places. I started off after I graduated. I did do a GPR first. The school that I went to, UConn, I mean, we're great with didactics. Like, we did medical school literally for the first 2 years. I never saw a patient for the first 2 years because we were in med school, we're cutting up cadavers and stuff like, so clinically, I really didn't feel as strong as I wanted to be. So I did a GPR, which was great. And I felt way more prepared. But when I got out, I did interview with a couple places, private practice, some community health. But my interview with the practice owner with Aspen, young guy, and that it threw me off because most of the owners that I knew were much, much, much older. So there's this young guy, great personality, loved dentistry. I think at that point he had like 4 offices. And I was like sold. I was like, how did you do this at such a young age? You're so successful. You're clearly doing something right. And so that's what got me interested in Aspen, and I've never looked back.
Awesome. I always ask this to all of my doctors that come in. It's a personal question for me because I'm learning about this side of the business. Is looking back now that you've been with Aspen, you've brought associates in, would you still do the GPR or the residency coming out of school, or is Aspen something you feel you could have done straight out of graduation looking back?
I think each opportunity is different. I think there's certain instances where, let's say if I'm going to be in an office where you're going to have mentorship and you're okay with that for maybe a year and a half before you have that opportunity to fly, then go straight into it. But I've had people who've come straight from dental school who took the initiative in dental school. They got all the requirements. They've done like some really, really amazing things, more than I would expect. And those are the ones that I look at and say, hey, I think that, we can probably work together, maybe not for a whole year, maybe for 3 or 6 months. It just depends on how much coaching and mentorship that you need. But they're able to hit the ground a lot sooner. And by doing that, a GPR, you're off for a year, you're getting a stipend, and it's not a bad opportunity. But if you have the right mindset, the right work ethic, starting early, if you're the right fit for an office, you get to do a lot more, learn a lot more, and at the same time make a lot more too. So
all great points. Thank you for that. This question just came in. What are some of the biggest benefits, as an owner, that Aspen Dental, the service organization, helps you with on a monthly, weekly, yearly basis, in your opinion?
I don't know. You know why? Because I don't have to think about it as much. And I think that's part of why it's also a lot of things happen behind the scenes that I don't have to worry about. Case in point, I walked into the office Monday morning. My office is flooded. All right, my lab, there was a pipe that backed up. Lab is flooded, water just came in 2 of the operatories, and I walk around, there's water, in my office, it's flooded. If I were by myself, I think I would freak out a lot more. Like, who do I call? What do I do? All I do is I send a call out to my director or my regional. Hey, walked into the office this morning. I usually get there early, so I know I have time. I give a call out to her. It's before hours. She calls out to facilities. The facility guys do everything behind the scenes. They got somebody from remediation. They got a plumber. Within 2 hours, I've got people inside my office drying it out. I've got fans running, vacuums going, people drying out carpets, and I'm still there practicing dentistry. I did not have to skip a beat because I've got this amazing team behind me. And those are things that, I take for granted sometimes until. So, people ask that questions, what do I like? I like the fact that I don't have that much to worry about, because having a great service organization behind you, they've seen these things before and they've got people in place ready to go.
Wow, that's a great example. And I'm from Oklahoma City. I was an office manager. We had a tornado, office flooded.
Oh yeah.
Only closed for 1 day, even after a tornado. So I do see that. So thanks for bringing that up. Let's say, you talked about the lab was flooded. You have 6 practices. What do you mean by lab? And do all your offices have a lab? And what are the benefits of that?
Okay. Yeah. So one of the great things with Aspen is we started off really, really big with dentures. So each Aspen office has an in-house lab and a lab technician. So, we do a lot of dentures depending on the office. So if a patient walks in, they need dentures, they need a repair, a lot of that stuff is already in-house. So we don't have to worry about sending that out, which is pretty cool. It's a lot different from school, because with school, you've got to think about steps and processes, which, it's totally different when you're on the outside, especially when you have that technician there with you. So, I was sharing with somebody today that I had a gentleman who's a truck driver. He walks in, he needs dentures, he's got to get his teeth out, but he has a time crunch. It's Tuesday, he's got to have his dentures by Thursday, he's leaving Friday. So we took his impressions on Tuesday morning. My lab tech put together a bite block. We did his bite registration Tuesday afternoon. Wednesday morning, he's in my chair for full mouth extractions and immediate dentures. So the lab allows me to do that. It's really, really beneficial for the patient and for the office. And I don't know about most of you guys, but denture steps weren't necessarily my favorite part in school, setting teeth. So by having somebody great doing it for me, it's a win-win.
Wow, that's an awesome story. And I'm sure that happens at all your practices and Aspen Dental's nationwide. So,
Yeah.
Well, this question just came in. It's an interesting one. You said you have 6 offices. How did you know that you were ready to buy your first practice, and then how did you transition to second, third, and now 6th?
Luck, skill. It's hard, when I moved down here. So I worked with Aspen. Let me backtrack a little bit. I worked out of residency. I worked in Connecticut for 2 years. Did really well, really enjoyed it. In school, I had a passion for root canals. So I did actually leave to go back to do residency for a year. But I really missed the flow. I missed interacting with patients and all the stuff that I was doing. And I left. There was an opportunity to come down to Florida because it was a new market at that time. And they said I'd have the option to maybe grow 1, 2, 3 offices. And we chose St. Augustine. That's where we moved to. And since then, first office, didn't know what to expect, got inside, didn't know anyone. But I mean, it's a challenge, and it's really, it depends on how well you face challenges. I'm in Florida, my family's coming down here, there. I've burned all my bridges. There's no ships to come and save me. It's on me. Sometimes it's opportunities like that, you're either going to buckle and run away, or you're going to rise to the occasion. And it's one of those things where, I love the feeling of rising to the occasion. Some people will look at challenges that come and, it's too much. No, I'm looking at it like, I think I can do this, because I think on the other side of this challenge, there's a great office there, great team, great patients. I just have to hopefully get the right people in, maybe even increase my skill set. What does the office need? Do I need to learn molar endo? I mean, I already do that. Do I need to learn implants, or how to treatment plan, or, what can I do to improve clinically to be successful? Building teams, interacting with patients, building the right culture, all those things kind of came together. And once the first office was doing well, it just so happened 30 minutes south of us, there was another office, and they approached me and said, "Hey, would you be interested?" And I said, "Yeah, if I can do it with this, maybe I can help somebody else do it." So second office came, I opened that office, and I brought on my first associate, and she was out of school. I think she worked at another office for maybe 6 months, and she worked with me for 3 months. That was it. And she's been the director in that office since we opened in 2016. She's still with us. So after that, I was back in St. Augustine, and then Walgreens actually had a pilot that we did with Aspen. So we had the opportunity to open the very first Aspen in a Walgreens. I think there's only 2 in the country, but that was my third office in Palatka, Florida. And as of recent, one of our owner doctors, who's kind of consolidating, we were really great, friends. And, he said, "Hey, this is what's going on." And he said, "Would you be interested?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." So that's where I'm expanding now to the other 2 offices. So.
Awesome. And I had heard about those Walgreen Aspen Dental. So it's funny that you're on today and you did that. It's just something that Aspen, we bought Clear Choice. We've expanded into urgent care, med spas. So we're always willing to push to a higher level of patient care, however we can do it. So I'm glad you brought that up, Dr. Rennie.
Yeah.
Here's a question that came in. You mentioned, you brought on your associates now that she's your MCD or lead dentist, managing clinical director. What do you look for in associates, and what does your growth plan for associates look like in the future?
it really depends on the associate. I try to get a sense for the individual. I love getting an idea, okay, is this person very, very forward? I know, like myself, when I started as an associate, my owner doctor asked me, hey, do you want for me to be hands-on or hands-off? Do you want for me to be by your side, or do you want for me to just be nearby in case you need me? And that's kind of the approach that I use. It really depends on the associate. And their first month, it's really figuring out what their strengths are, where they're weak, and seeing how we can get everything up. So, I have an associate now where, she's trying to get stronger with crown and bridge. So we're doing crown preps every time, every day. There's crown preps on that schedule. If they're struggling with extractions, every day we're doing extractions. We were just doing some facial composites yesterday, and as she'd mentioned, she'd struggled with that for a while. So I had her come in to assist me, and I showed her some of the techniques that I use. So for the first 3 to 6 months, my biggest thing is helping the associate build their confidence in their skill set, because that's the most important thing. That bread and butter dentistry, fillings, extractions, crown and bridge. Once you've got that as a solid foundation, you're good, you're confident, you're efficient, then we can start building upon that.
Awesome. And do you see any potential openings in your practices coming up for associates, or?
Yeah, there's one now. I interviewed a really amazing candidate today, Dr. Wynn. She blew my mind. But I think maybe within the next year or two, we may have a couple more.
Awesome. That's good to know. And so spread the word. Let's go back to you when you were first an associate. You talked about, you're looking at their strengths and weaknesses. Who determines, an associate schedule? How much say do they have in their schedule, or how much say did you have in your schedule when you were just starting as an associate?
I mean, when I started, it's a little bit of both. I'm treatment planning the patients, so what I treatment plan ended up on my schedule. My owner doctor was maybe only there for a month, but I felt pretty comfortable with the bread and butter, and anything I needed to build upon, he was there to kind of help walk me through. So even my associates now, they'll be with me for treatment planning. So if I'm seeing a new patient doing their treatment plans, the associate's really usually with me. And it really depends on what they're wanting on their schedule. If they like crown and bridge, they're really trying to get strong there, we're going to build crown and bridge into their schedule. This is really trying to get them used to the practice of dentistry. Nobody's going to be perfect initially. But the more we do this, and again, just don't give up on yourself, you get better. And, as long as somebody's there to support you, if the margins aren't just right, I'll go in and refine. But with regards to their schedule, they help me design their schedule, their parameters, how much time we're going to put for their procedures and what type of procedures we're going to put on there. As long as they're comfortable. But I always encourage them to challenge themselves. If I give you 2 hours, let's see if you can get it done in 90 minutes or an hour. If it's surgical extraction, you've only done a few, go for it. I'll be your assistant. So the associate helps to build their schedule.
Yeah, it sounds like they build their schedule, and you guys work together to build their skill set, which benefits the practice. So one of the things that always comes up is, when an associate comes in, and maybe in a private practice, they have to fight for procedures.
Yeah.
Can you go over how that would be different at an Aspen Dental, and why that's beneficial for them not to have to fight for procedures in a practice of yours?
There's a ton of procedures. Aspen does a really, really good job of getting patients in the door. We as clinicians do a really good job and as a team, getting patients, treatment planning them really well and getting them accepted. I mean, I have offices that we have procedures and stuff that are booked out for weeks. I've done a lot of dentistry, so there's only so many things that I'm going to keep to myself. Outside of that, I really enjoy seeing others develop. So I guess with us, there really is no competition, it's more competence. That's the big thing. We want for you to get better, and the only way for you to get better is to do more. Don't run away from them. If you don't like crown preps, okay, we're going to do more crown preps. If you don't like surgical extractions, okay, we're going to do more surgical extractions. You've got to focus on not just the stuff that you're weak at, but not just focus on the stuff that you're good at, but what are you weak at, and how can we get you better so that you're a better overall dentist? So competition, no, it is. I think that's where that team dynamic comes in. It's like, I want to see you do better. There's enough to go around, so just get in there.
Great points, Doc. And another good question that just came in. What are your work hours, or how different are they from location to location? How many days do your associates and your clinical directors work?
Each office is a little bit different. The standard hours are usually 8 to 6. We do one late day, which is 9 to 7. And Fridays are usually a short day, 8 to 1. But in offices where the demand is a lot higher, we do an extended schedule. So in my office in Palm Coast, I'm there 4 days. My associate's there 4 days, but we do extended schedules. So we're running from 7:30 in the morning to 6:30 in the evening. And that just gives more time for patients to have access to care. And that's one of the things that I think separates us from a lot of other offices where, and I try to show this to dentists really, really early. It's not about you and what's convenient to you. When you look at dentistry, clinically, you've got to be awesome. But from a business standpoint, you've got to look at your patient base. You look at any of the most successful businesses today, Amazon, Apple, they don't cater to them, they cater to the user. We cater to our patients. What do our patients need? And in certain offices where they need later hours, we expand the hours for that. So in some offices, we do shifts. I'll come in from 7:30 and I'll probably leave at 3:30 or 4. And my other dentist comes in at about 10:30 and she'll be there until 6:30. In the Palatka office, which is super, super tiny, but it has a lot of demand, they go from 7 to 7. So one dentist comes in from 7 and they're there until 2. And I think the other dentist comes in at 11, they're there until 7.
Awesome. Yeah, I love the fact that it's catered to the patients. I don't think I've had a doctor put it that way, but as a company, we like to believe we're a yes company. So you hit that nail on the head. So yeah, good point. Okay, well, let's get to the fun part. It always comes up. What does compensation look like for an associate? How do they get paid? You don't have to get into exact numbers, but just a general idea of how associates get paid with Aspen Dental coming out of school.
I think the biggest part is their daily draw. I think it's anywhere between 600 or 650. I'm not too sure. Sometimes it depends on the area, but their daily draw is the biggest thing. And then from there, they get a percentage of the net production. So the associate gets anywhere from 8 to 10% of that. So for the associate, if they're in one office, it's usually actually really, really good, especially if they're in a busy office.
And so that daily draw, is that guaranteed? Is that how is that paid out to them?
No, it's guaranteed. There is no, leave early, we're not busy. No, that's your daily draw. You're on board. We're here to take care of you, whether you see less patients, more patients, you're still getting paid, which is great. You know, it's not so much based on your production as yet. You know, we want for you to be able to have a living and still be able to focus on getting better. It just so happens that for those who get better really, really quickly, it opens up the opportunity to move from associate to clinical director. That's where the fun stuff happens.
Awesome. So yeah, if you have any more questions on that, shoot me an email. I can send you the document that kind of puts it all in perspective for you. It's tangible for you. So great answer, Doc. This question always comes up. Being a big company, do you have a say in what equipment and supplies you use in your office?
Oh yeah. The great thing with Aspen is they can pretty much secure deals with most any vendor. So, you know, whether it's implants, sleep apnea, ortho, and any area that I've ever had any desire to delve into more, they've been able to help with getting those items to us pretty quickly and at really great prices. So like right now, there's an office that I think their demographic is a great one for lasers. So I'm going to be working with them soon to get a one of the Photona lasers for that office. So yeah, most anything that's out there, if it can be purchased, they'll help me get it, as long as it makes sense.
No, I understand that. And follow-up question to that is, what CEs are offered? Do you have to pay for them? I guess that's the question. Does Aspen offer CEs?
Oh yeah. They offer a lot of CEs. I think within the last year or two, they started investing a lot in CEs, from root canals to crown and bridge, to the biggest push right now is implants. You know, soon enough, especially with our partnership with ClearChoice, I think there's a lot of direction and a lot of movement with implants. So we've got this huge implant initiative, implant continuum, CEs, didactic, hands-on, but they do offer them. I mean, that's more towards the clinical directors, but even for associates, there's a lot of training. I think there's a training center they just built in Arizona. There's one in Chicago. From your first day, you'll have access to online CEs as well through Viva Learning. But even for my docs personally, I believe that I want for them to invest in themselves. So I encourage them to find something specific. You know, what is it that you're struggling with the most? What is it you'd love to be great at this year? And we'll find a CE together. And depending on the price, we'll either go in on it and I'll pay for 50%, or depending on what it is, I'll just pay for the whole thing for them.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So like Dr. Rennie, there's probably hundreds of owners out there that are willing to do this type of, CE or get you the mentorship you need and do that for their associates. So, it's Dr. Rennie's not by himself. So that's amazing. That's the first time I've heard that. Since we just had the pandemic, I do want to pub aspendentalce.com/welcome. We've opened our CE library to everybody due to the pandemic. So, if you want to go on there, you just have to create a username and log in, but you have access a library where you can take courses and get CEs. So check it out. It's aspendentalce.com/welcome. So check that out. Let's see. What are some of the, we talked about implants being the biggest kind of movement for us. What are some of the technology that Aspen has done, not even with implants, but when we decide to roll forward with something, what are some of the, technology we try to get to all the offices and things like that for you guys as providers?
I think, one of the awesome things with Aspen is they try to stay at the forefront when it comes down to technology, which I think is totally different from, some other places. So a couple of years ago, when we partnered with Invisalign, one of the bigger initiatives was getting an iTero scanner into all the offices. And, it was a big shift because, we're all used to taking traditional impressions and, VPS impressions that they do in schools mostly. But, I was on board. So we got iTero scanners for every office. We got cone beams for each office as well. That was another pretty big initiative. And it definitely changed the way we practice. It's way more efficient. It's a lot faster. Patients love it. Each new patient we do a 3D scan for. So as I treatment plan, they're looking at their x-rays, but they're also looking at their a model of their mouth in 3D so they can see exactly what's going on. The newest initiative that we're working on, a few, are digital dentures. So that's something that we're piloting in a couple offices in Florida. So it changes the whole dynamic when it comes down to impressions and going through steps. A lot of it's going to be done on the computer, and the dentures are actually milled, with a 3D mill. So it's pretty cool. Guided implant surgeries is another one that we're doing as well. And I think soon enough, they're going to be rolling out an Aspen branded clear aligner system that they're going to roll out to the public soon. So from a technology standpoint, I mean, we have access to some of the most cutting edge techniques, tools. I mean, it's pretty awesome.
Wow, that's amazing. And just not even as a clinician, just hearing about it. Okay, here's a good one. What advice do you have for students graduating this year who are looking for jobs, or maybe even somebody who's about to start their last year of school? Like, what are some things they should be thinking about or looking into, or what advice would you give them?
I would say for those in third year going into fourth years, don't waste opportunities. If you can get something done, get it done. Don't wait for the last minute to get your requirements. No one is going to help you be successful. You really have to take initiative, as scary as it may be, as daunting as it may seem. Do that. I think that's one of the things in school and even outside of school that's going to help you be very successful when you get out. As for the fourth years getting out looking for jobs now, there are a lot of options. Decide what type of dentist you want to be. Private practice is one option. The DSO model is one. Community health. There's different options. But commit to one. If you start, see it through. Learn and take it as a learning experience, especially. A really skilled person can make any opportunity work, and they can be really successful at it. Just remember that. But I think being hardworking, showing a sense of humility, and just understanding emotional intelligence, those three things coming out, especially for new grads, go a really, really long way.
I think that's great advice. Just personally talking to some students. So I'll definitely be using that at these. Hopefully we'll be doing future in-person events coming up this summer. So, if Dr. Rennie's not there, I'm gonna watch this and use that for these students. This always comes up, and I've worked in the office as office manager, regional manager, but coming from a doctor, I love to ask this question. Do you have quotas, or do your associates have quotas they have to meet on a daily, monthly basis?
No, we don't have quotas per se. Sometimes what we'll do is we'll look at the historical data for an office. I mean, a great thing with Aspen is there are a lot of data points, and I'm a really analytical person, so they can track a lot of minutia, which may seem insignificant, but they can actually point in directions to help with your success. So if I know historically an office does this amount of crown and bridge, or these amount of cases of dentures, those are the things I may track to see if it's going up, if it's going down. But quota per se, no. I think the big thing is, how good are you as a clinician in keeping a really good cohesive team? How good are you at presenting treatment to these patients who walk in who are automatically fearful of the dentist? who may be in pain, and who may be worried that they can't afford this, what you're telling them, and how you're able as a dentist to translate that to, hey, I'm here to take care of you. This is what I'm going to do, and get them back into your chair. I think that's a really big piece. How good are you at getting patients back into the chair? How good are you at getting patients to accept treatment, and buy into you as a clinician? One of the things I tell my docs is, when you treatment plan, when you present something, a big part of it is that patient accepting you as much as it is your treatment plan. So from there, we look at some other numbers, how much additions we're getting into the office. And, we may set goals, and it's a lot of times it's a challenge too for like other docs. Like, I'll have one office that'll compete with the other office to see, okay, I bet I can do more patient scans or get more online reviews, and, we'll make little games of it. But all in all, it's looking at how your skills as a clinician can lend themselves to creating a successful office, a successful business.
Thank you. I appreciate that answer. We always get into it. We're coming out of the pandemic. You have 6 practices, or you're moving up to 6. How did COVID affect your business? And coming out of the pandemic, did you see any, I guess, shortfalls during the pandemic, or how did Aspen support you during COVID? Just kind of go over that a little bit.
I think the pandemic hit everyone pretty hard. We were open up until the state, I think, mandated just emergency care. So at that point, I think we just opened our 4th office, I think in February, and we had to shut down in March. Most offices, I think, were only closed for a couple of weeks, maybe a month. And what we did is we had doctors kind of go on rotation. So that helped because we were able to still see patients. And one of the primary goals that we were looking at was, how can we keep dental emergencies out of the emergency rooms? Because at that point in time, all the COVID cases were going there, and, we're trying to figure out how can we get patients from not contracting it there. So we had, I think, 2 offices opened with limited hours, and we'll rotate doctors. So we did that. I think Aspen had a really great initiative. We started some virtual dentistry, which made it really easy for patients to call in. We did Zoom conferences just like this. So we would triage via Zoom, and if it was truly an emergency, something that we can take care of from the Zoom teledentistry, we can direct a patient into one of our offices and kind of build a schedule like that. But Aspen was awesome when it came down to opening too, because we secured a lot of inventory. When everyone else was running around trying to figure out gloves and masks, they did a really good job on the back end, securing N95s, level 3s, gowns. I mean, they sent stuff that I swear I didn't even use, but we had booties, we had bonnets and stuff. They threw everything at us to make sure that we felt safe, we felt protected, so that we can continue serving patients without having to worry as much. So they were really, really helpful there. From a business standpoint too, they helped with some of the PPP loans to help with keeping the offices open, getting staff paid, because that's the other part too. We have all these staff members, and we want to make sure that we can still take care of them and take care of their families too.
Yeah, and that's amazing. I'm in St. Louis and I have District 5, but you drive down the street and some practices that you knew were there before COVID aren't there anymore. So
yeah,
you just kind of wonder, how it affected everybody. So
yeah,
appreciate you going over that, Doc. This one came in. You talked about staffing. What's a typical office staffing look like in terms of how many DAs, hygienists, front office staff?
I think the typical office, it's probably 1 doctor, 3 or 4 dental assistants, 1 hygienist, an office manager, PSR to answer the phone, and a lab technician. But we're not typical in Florida, so we're always a little bit above that. Um, we do a really good job of, if the office runs really well, you're seeing a lot more patients, you're doing a lot more procedures, so you want a little bit more help. So I may have 5 or 6 dental assistants, I may have 2 doctors, I may have 2 treatment care coordinators, which is awesome. As you grow, or as the offices grow, and become more successful, we do have to bring on more team members to help in that success.
Yeah, I think you answered that one, with your practices and what the typical is. So I always enjoy this question coming in. What kind of things does Aspen Dental do to give back? That's important to a lot of students and providers like yourself. So what kind of things does Aspen give back?
Every year we do a day of service, and this is, ever since I started, every single year, we open up all the Aspen offices throughout the country, and we do a day of service to veterans. So we open the doors, they come in, and for that day, anything that they need, if it's fillings, if it's dentures, we're there to serve. So for a lot of the veterans who, they either didn't have the money, or if they go to the VA clinics, it may take months or years for them to get taken care of. We just open up our books, we open up the offices, and we say, hey, what can we do to help? So that's one thing that we do. And, I don't think we did it last year. I'm not too sure if it's on for this year, but, that has been great for us to be able to do. And, all my docs volunteer, it is a really great experience, a great feeling, and they're always grateful. And I think every year we pick like one of the vets that we follow through for the entire year to make sure that they get all their work done. We also did a lot of mission trips. So I think every year, maybe once or even twice, they'll find an underserved population somewhere in the world. So they've gone to Jamaica, Cambodia, Caribbean islands, Haiti. Last year, or year before, 2019, they had a trip that was really close to my heart. They went to Trinidad, and that's where I'm from. And it's not any of the fancy tourist places. No, we're in the hills, we're in the country. I mean, we're taking care of people in places that my parents told me never to go to because it's not safe. But it was awesome because you're there, and they're so appreciative because we're there to serve. There's people who've always been afraid to go to the dentist, or didn't even know what the dentist did, but we were happy to take care of them, get them out of pain. And that was really, really rewarding. I think there's multiple avenues. Like if you have a heart for giving back, we have a team at ADMI that, that's what they do. They figure out ways, or they'll help spearhead initiatives to help give back, especially when we're successful. It's a rewarding feeling when you can serve. So at least that's what I think.
Yeah, and I think veterans is big for us. Especially like you said, they don't get the treatments dental wise that they deserve when they've served. And he went over the free day of service. I want to say that we also have a 2 operatory mouth mobile that I don't know.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if it traveled around the country last year, but normally it visits every state we're in multiple times a year and sets up, like when I was in St. Louis, it came downtown, right down the way from the arch, and we served from 8 to 5. Veterans came and lined up, and, we had multiple doctors, hygienists, and even a lab tech that, just gave out free service for the day. So
yeah, you're right.
Okay, well, I feel like Dr. Rennie, you've done a great job. We've had a lot of great questions. I'm going to pull up my list of registrants, but I always close my sessions with a question that I just like to hear. we have smile stories. So Dr. Rennie, if you could think of one patient, whether it's as an owner, an associate, that you just always remember, how do you help that patient, and how did it change their lives? If you would tell the students that story while I pull up the list, and we'll give out the Apple AirPods and we'll close the evening.
I think it was Christmas 2 years ago. We had a gentleman come in. He'd lost his dentures. He'd lost his wife. This guy, he was in his late 80s, early 90s. And he really just wanted to be able to smile again. He was at home, alone. His kids came in once in a while, but he missed being able to eat and being able to smile. And he didn't have the insurance that he thought he did. So, he came in, we gave him a plan, we gave him a workup, and he's outside, just kind of sad because he can't afford it and the insurance isn't going to help him. So, the girls, I was in the back, and two of my PSRs and my consultants, they came up. It's like, hey, doc, do you remember this guy? You just saw him. This is what's going on with him. He's, we really, really feel for him. Is there anything we can do? I was like, guys, yeah. If there's any way we can help, yeah. So, we went up to him and said, hey, 'tis this season. I mean, you're such a remarkable person. You've lived such an amazing life. We'd love to be able to give back to you as a thank you for everything you've done. So, we told him we're going to be doing his care at no cost. We took impressions that day. And I think the next day we had him back for his delivery. He came with his daughter, I think. And the entire office was just crying. He was so happy. He said he doesn't think he'd smiled so much before he lost his teeth, before he lost his wife. And it was just a joy to be able to see him smile and to be able to help him with that. So that's the smile story that like jumps out to me the most.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like, that makes me want to go to dental school and get my license so I can help people like that. So I love those stories. So thank you, Dr. Rennie. I appreciate it. Roland, thank you for joining us. If you guys want any of their contact info, I'd be happy to send that to you. But before we go, we promised a set of Apple AirPods. So doctor, if you want, pick a number between 1 and 24 for me.
23.
23. Okay, 23. And the lucky winner of the Apple AirPods is Dara Patel. So Dara, I will reach out to you tomorrow, get your address and get those shipped out to you. And that concludes our event. I hope you found it useful. Like I said, I'm going to be out in Florida this summer, hopefully doing some in-person events. I'm already in contact with your ASDA leaders. So hopefully I'll get to meet you guys in person later this summer, and hopefully I can steal Dr. Rennie away and we can do something fun in person. So Dr. Rennie, anything to add? Any last words?
Oh, no, just anything we can do. I mean, this is a great time for you guys. So enjoy the rest of your time in school. But once the work starts, hit the ground running. You're about to join an amazing field at an amazing time.
Okay, we'll end it on that note. Everybody have a good evening. Again, thank you so much, Dr. Rennie. Thank you, Roland, for joining. And everybody have a good night.
All right, bye.